Hello and welcome to the weekly Blackpool FC preview show. I'm Jed Mills, and coming up today, we'll look back on the Seasiders' 2-2 draw with Plymouth Argyle. We'll hear from returning defender Daniel Gretarsson. Former Swindon player, now Blackpool coach Colin Calderwood reflects on his time with the Robins. Neil Critchley gives us his thoughts on Good Friday's trip to the county ground. Plus, former Blackpool man Andy Morrison answers your questions. Well, returning for his second appearance on the preview show is former Blackpool striker Andy Preece. Andy, thanks very much for joining us. First of all, the unbeaten run since last time, it continues for Blackpool. This is all looking good.
Yeah, the momentum's still there. You know, we're going into the business end of the season, still on a great run. Obviously disappointing on Saturday to concede that last minute goal, but all in all, we're on a fantastic run, and hopefully we can keep it going now to the end of the season.
It is going to be difficult though, isn't it? I mean, with the games that are coming up, the only real positive about Blackpool is that squad depth that they've got, but every player, I suppose, is going to be used right to the end of the season. Yeah,
and it's getting tested all the time. You know, you're going to pick up these niggly injuries now, where lads are going to be out for 1 or 2 games. Lads are going to have to come in. It is tough, and it's tough mentally, not just physically. Mentally going into these games, they're so important. Every point's so important now at this stage of the season. But it's a good, deep squad, good quality in the squad. And like I say, that momentum is massive at this stage of the season.
Well, just looking at highlights of Plymouth Argyle, 2-1. Again, you're thinking it's going to be another maximum points. It's 9 points from that Tuesday, Saturday. Just another late goal here at home.
Yeah, it's disappointing when you look at it at the end, but when you look at the whole game, first half, probably just looked a little bit jaded, a little bit tired. Wasn't for the one to try in, but just looked just a little bit off it, and Plymouth played well actually in the first half, but second half, getting that early goal, you could see just a little bit more life coming to the team, and then that belief, and Plymouth seemed to lose their way, and then at 2-1 you just couldn't see where they were going to get back in the game. It looked so solid, and to be fair, the way they worked it, and the ball in, and the actual quality of the finish, it's disappointing the way it finished, but if you look at the overall situation, again, it's not losing. You're still unbeaten, and still in a really strong position.
I was going to say, still in the playoff positions. I mean, that's the big thing, wasn't it? I think Doncaster getting beat still kept them in there, and I suppose when you look at that, and that's what you've got to look at, the table, because everyone looks at the table at the end of the season where you're at. They're in a really good position still.
Yeah, definitely, and I thought it was good character, really, because of those games when you're not quite at your best, you can lose those games of 1-0 or 2-1, and then it just stops that momentum. But the belief in the players that to go on and get that win when they're not probably playing at their best, I think that's a real good sign for the next few games.
One man who made a return to action in the Plymouth game was defender Daniel Gretarsson. Absent from the squad since January, he's delighted to be back in action again.
It felt really good. It's a bit rusty when you've been out for this long, and I think I haven't had an injury this long before, so it takes time to get back there, but I felt I did all right in the game.
How frustrating has this period been to have nearly 2 months without football?
When you take in the lockdown and everything, it's quite frustrating. When I came up here, it took some time to get back in there, like get used to the football here, and I felt I managed it pretty well and did pretty okay, and was getting better and better, I feel. So to get the injury at this time there, it was a bit frustrating, but I'm back now, so it's good news.
Yeah, you mentioned that the injury just came at the wrong time, didn't it? You were getting a really good run in the team.
Yeah. I had some nice wins and kept game. Managed to get longer, and it was a bit frustrating to not be part of the Brighton game. So yeah, felt pretty bad at the time.
How do you feel that you've acclimatised to English football so far?
It's a bit physical here, and more physical where I've been. So it took some time to get used to using my hands a little bit more to protect me from some elbows and other things. So yeah, I think I'll managed it pretty well.
Had it always been an ambition to come and try and play football in England?
Yeah, it's English football is at the top at Iceland. Like everyone watches Premier League in Iceland, and everyone has a favorite team and so on. So I think like when you ask a young kid in Iceland where you want to play, that's of course in the Premier League. So League One wasn't like my plan to play, but I think it's I'm happy to be here and progress in my football career.
Normally when you have options to join a football club and you go to a different country, you have to do quite a bit of research to know about that football club, but you already knew a little bit about Blackpool.
Yeah, I had like followed them some things, like some before, and since they were in the Premier League, I've kind of been kind of a fan. Maybe not a fan, but like I watched the team pretty closely since the Premier League, and I've been a part of a small supporter club in Iceland, maybe like 50 supporters. So I knew a lot of things about Blackpool when they contacted me, so I didn't have to like do a big research. Yeah.
And it's quite incredible that you mentioned that little group of Blackpool supporters. How did that start?
I kind of liked the playing style at the time when they were going up from the Championship. I liked watching them in the Premier League, so I started watching them more and more, and I like their kind of playing. So I kept close eye on them, and they became kind of a second favourite team, like underdog team for me in the Premier League.
Yeah, and even as a defender, you like the philosophy of attacking and scoring goals.
Yeah, of course. You like a game with a lot of goals in when you're watching, but when I'm playing, I like a game where we keep a clean sheet. So it's kind of a strange thing.
So how did you feel when you obviously came here and signed and came and seen the stadium and that sort of thing? Was it quite surreal?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of a big stadium for a team in the League One, and I felt like maybe not at home, but I felt like I felt comfortable right away. So I haven't felt better at some time. So I felt really good since I came here. Yeah.
And coming back to the present moment, it's been such a strange season, especially in defence, where there's been so many players had to play at centre back.
Yeah, there's been some injuries and some other things to like get mixed up, but I think the team has done a really good job in the defence. We had a lot of clean sheets, and I think it's quite rare because the team is kind of new and haven't been playing so much together. So I think we just have to keep on progressing as a team, and I think we can do even better.
Yeah, given this unbeaten run that the team's on, how excited are you for these matches that are left?
I think we have a good chance. We have to just take get one game by game, so we can't go ahead of us and look at the table too much. We just have to take one game and hopefully do some 3 points in the end, and hopefully we'll be up there.
And we hear congratulations are in order. You've become a father again, and mother and baby well?
Yeah, mother and baby well. I've got two, so it's pretty rare, probably like at my age, but it's been some exciting times now.
Well, Andy, let's talk about Daniel Gretarsson, back in the squad, and again came on at the weekend, did really well.
Yeah, I thought when he came on, the team looked more solid. They didn't really get a sniff Plymouth in the second half. First half they looked lively and looked threatening, but he came on and looked like he hadn't been out for any time at all. So that's a massive plus for us going forward to have another option.
Yeah, I'm going to say, and that's what it's been about. I mean, I think it was like we were talking in the last preview show that it was like the 9th centre half pairing that they'd had. So hopefully getting that bit of stability if some of these defenders especially can come back.
Well, that's it. Amongst all this brilliant run, there's had to be so many changes, and that is so difficult to deal with. So when you think what might be happening over the next few games, that lads coming back and getting that partnership together, playing regular, then the signs are really good. So Yeah, so it's positive. You know, I think there's a lot of positivity around the club at the moment, and getting these players back is only going to help going forward.
You talk about squad depth. How good is this squad depth for Blackpool? Because as you say, there has been a lot of injuries. We'll touch on 2 more as well this week, unfortunately. But how good is it that then when you're getting players back, they are the same quality, if not better, all the time?
Well, the team changes, so many changes over the last few weeks, and whoever comes in seems to settle in, know the job, same quality, same hunger. You know, there must be a very good togetherness amongst this squad, because you know, when they're getting left out, when they're put back in, you know they're hungry to go again, and it doesn't seem to be any sulking or anybody you know, not pulling in the right direction, and that, again, that's important. So that togetherness, having that quality, knowing that you're all fighting for the same goal, again, you know, I can only look at positives around the squad.
How difficult is that? I mean, you've been in the game, a player and of course as a manager and a coach as well. How difficult is that to get that squad depth right without the sort of sulkiness that you can get? Because, you know, there's players I'm sure will be knocking on your door going, why am I not in the team?
It is, you know, that's my management skills. You know, Neil's handling it really well. I think it helps with game after game after game coming, because you know there is an understanding with players then that they're probably not going to be able to play every game. You see how many injuries we've had. You know, that is because, you know, it's so intense. This season has been crammed into a shorter period, so you're going to get injuries. So you've got to try and manage that, make sure players don't get injured, keep the team as fresh as they can, and I think the players will buy into that probably more this season than in previous seasons.
Couple of injuries this week as well, tough to take out for the season. Matty Virtue and CJ Hamilton, again, 2 big players for Blackpool. There'll be a big loss. Yeah,
they're quality players, and it doesn't matter, you know, that you've got the same quality to come in, you're still going to miss those sort of players, and you know it is tough on those 2 because they've done really, really well this season, and to have those available for the running would have been great, but you know, we'll be able to deal with it because of the quality that we have in the squad.
Well, it's Swindon next up for Blackpool, and someone who knows Friday's opponents well is Colin Calderwood, who made over 300 appearances for the club as a player in the 1980s. Now working alongside Neil Critchley and Mike Garrity at Blackpool, here he is reflecting on his time at the county ground.
Yeah, I went when in Division 4, League 2 as it is now, so when I was 20 years old, I'd run out of contract at Mansfield, and the big attraction was the manager, Lou McCarry, at the time, and he rang up during that summer period and invited me down. I went down and met him and decided to join, which caused a wee bit of annoyance from the Mansfield side. But in the end, it's transpired to be a tremendous move, and very fond memories of 8-9 seasons there.
And he had a lot of promotions there as well, one in particular to get into the Premiership over Leicester, 4-3. Must have been a really memorable game to win a game like that in that fashion. Yeah,
when we had a terrific run, so went through all the divisions, got into the top league and then get demoted back down, and then a couple of seasons later we repeat the promotion by beating Leicester and finally getting up, and strangely enough I was also out of contract at the end of that season. And that was the time where I would get given an offer by Tottenham, and apart from probably the only reason I left was entirely that, the size of the club and the opportunity to join Tottenham Hotspur with another manager who had managed at Swindon, Ozzy Ardiles.
Going back to when you joined Swindon, you joined as a 20-year-old and were made captain pretty soon after you joined. That must have been quite a daunting prospect, to go into a club and being made club captain at such a young age.
Yeah, I mean, it was a real steep learning curve, because I'd been a young pro and had played upwards of 100 games at Mansfield in League 2 as it is. And then I found myself being under a bit more of the spotlight, rather than being a homegrown player, was a purchase. And early in the season, a little bit impetuous, over-aggressive, got myself on the borderline of being suspended. And that sort of coincided with the club captain at the time being injured. And Lou at the time decided that it might be a good way of me getting introduced to a referee, and the referee maybe having a slightly more lenient way with some of my tackles. And funnily enough, I didn't get another yellow card that would have led to suspension, and played every game that season.
And looking back on your career as a player, you gained obviously a lot of success. Do you think that you've taken a lot of that success and experience going into your coaching career?
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly. So the fundamentals of that time was the understanding, or getting a better understanding of how fitness would definitely give you a better chance of being the best you could be. And a lot of the time at Swindon under Louis especially we were a very, very fit side. You know, we ran hard during the week, and we ran hard on a Saturday, and the sort of camaraderie and team spirit, and being an underdog in all the divisions that we were in for the majority of them, learning to overachieve in lots of people's eyes, going and upsetting bigger teams, bigger clubs. It gave me a good grounding and a reality of what success can look like, and there are various other ways to do it, but it was born out of team spirit, fitness, and an attitude to being a better professional, which I must admit I definitely improved on as my years went by.
And looking ahead to the present day, here at Blackpool, really solid defensive record, particularly over the past few months. As a former defender yourself, you must be really pleased with the effort that the lads are putting in.
Yeah, man, it's probably the foundation of most things. Listen, I think we've got the ability to score goals, and we're beginning to show that in spells, but we've certainly been helped in games where we haven't been the dominant team, haven't maybe made the most of opportunities that we have created. If you have a full-back position that you're very good at the back, or very tight, very hard to score against. And I think in essence that's where a lot of people probably view us, that we've got a terrific work ethic. We look very difficult to get through, beyond, and score against and beat. And hopefully that has been the cornerstone of results improving, but also confidence building, and giving the lads a real belief in the ability to win the moment in a game, and then a series of games which were in a tidy enough run at the minute. But what I see with my eyes at the minute is that they don't feel as if they've achieved anything. They still feel as if there's improvement, and that's undoubtedly true. There's so much more the group can give, and there's quite an exciting end to the season.
Well, Andy, let's talk about Colin Calderwood then. As a defender, what was he like watching him and seeing him as a defender?
I don't think I come up against playing him, but I know he's no nonsense, no messing. You knew you were in a game when you played against Colin, and you know he seems the same as a coach and when he's been a manager. You know, very. You know, it looks like he's quite. You can see, you know, there's an intensity about him, and you know, he's certainly done well since he's been in here and wherever he's been, you know, whether it's been an assistant or being a manager.
Yeah, Blackpool's defensive record excellent at the moment as well. So yeah, good job from Colin Calderwood. I want to touch on the obviously defenders you may have come up against. You were a striker. There were tougher times, you could maybe argue, back when you were playing. The toughest defenders you've come up against, can you name a few? Maybe some at Blackpool as well.
Well, you know, a real tough one was Gary Briggs. You know, one of my first games as a young pro was against Gary and Tommy Caton when they were centre halves for Oxford in like a reserve game, and every time the ball went up the other end of the field, I feel studs down the back of my shirt. I thought, what's going on here? You know, he was no nonsense and tough to play against, and I played against him, you know, later on in my career, and he was exactly the same. You know, with the cameras there are now, I don't think he would have got away with it so much, but you knew we're in the game, and he was tough because, you know, you'd give it him back and, you know, he'd just growl at you and smile at you. So, you know, he was really, really tough.
I was going to say, did he do that maybe for you, you know, young pretender, you had the good looks, the dreadlocks, all that sort of stuff? Did he think, who's this guy here? We're going to, you know, like sort of get him down a peg or two, or was he just like that with everybody?
I think that's him. That's it. You're going to be in a game today. There's going to be. You're not. If you're going to do me, you're going to have to be good, and you're going to have to be brave, and you're going to have to be strong, and that's the way he went about it. He could play as well. He's a good footballer, but that was part of the game back then. You had to be tough. You had to stand up to opponents, and if you didn't, you just crumble, and they just walk all over you.
Well, ahead of Friday's match at Swindon, head coach Neil Critchley has been sharing his thoughts.
They've obviously had 2 really good results away from home, and where they haven't conceded. If you look at the results before then, they were obviously a bit up and down, but when you've got a manager experienced as John Sheridan and his assistant Tommy Wright, then it doesn't surprise me. They're good football people who have been in this situation before and know how to get the best out of players, and the last 2 games looks like they found a way of winning games with the group of players they've got, and they're fighting for their lives. So, when the games tick off, each game becomes more important, and it's getting down to that sort of stage of the season where a defeat or a draw or can play a big part in what happens at the end of the season. So this will be, so they're coming off the back of 2 victories. They're playing at home, and it'll be a very, very tough game for us.
Yeah, you're sort of touching it there. This is the period of the season where momentum really does matter.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, you often see teams, at the top end of the table coming from with a late surge and jumping into the playoffs or getting into automatic promotion, or you see at the bottom of the table where somebody who you think might have been dead and buried a few weeks ago put a great run together and jump out of the relegation zone, and someone you thought was safe have a torrid end to the season and end up getting relegated on the last day. It can happen. So, our away form has been good recently. We've had some momentum, not as much as I would have liked, but we're in good form. But we know we've got quite a few games coming up that are going to be really tough games, and the consistency that we've shown, we've got to try and maintain that. We have done for quite a large period of the season now, and if we can get some bodies back and we can stay injury free or have some luck with injuries, touch wood, then we could have a good end to the season ourselves.
That was Neil Critchley there ahead of the Swindon game on Good Friday. Andy, let's touch on Swindon. They had a real difficult run, but 2 wins in the last 2. That's going to give them a lot of confidence going into this game. Yeah,
probably a team now just finding a little bit of form. They can't relax though. They're under pressure. They're still in amongst that. 7 or 8 teams fighting to stay up. So there's a lot of pressure on them. And Swindon's I always found it a difficult place to go and play. I don't know why. So it's something about the ground. It just seemed a tough place to go. And John Sheridan probably just about getting his ideas across now. And it's probably going to be a tough time to go and play them.
Yeah, he's a firefighter, John Sheridan, isn't he? I remember him going to his clubs like Fleetwood when they were near the bottom. He got them out of there. He's done it everywhere he's been, really, and he seems to be doing the same at Swindon. What is it about him that just seems to be able to sort of create that momentum to get him out of relegation places? He's got that character. He's an infectious character. He's a great fella, John, and he'll give the players confidence, to go and play. He likes his teams to play football. He was a footballer, loved to get on the ball and play, and he'll give the players that confidence even in the situation that they're in. He'll give them that belief, and it just looks like it's just starting to turn for them. So we'll have to be on our guard when we go there, because it'll be a tough one. And it's going to be tough, isn't it? What is Easter like as a player? Because it is full on. I know it's been full on this season, but again, another 2 games in quick succession. How tough is that Easter period? Well, I think this little break's going to be important up until Friday. So just to recharge the batteries a little bit. But it's when you get to the Easter, you're looking at where you are in the league, and this could be a big weekend for us. 6 points out of 6 is really going to cement position in the playoffs. So
I think, you know, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough physically, but it's something that probably the players are more used to than in previous seasons. But it's still a vital time of the season.
Yeah, is that what players can look at, and management teams as well, this Easter period? You know, I say if you can get 2 wins, and you think, right, we're really moving on. There's not that many games left of the season. Is that kind of the mentality here?
Yeah, it's just a big push over this weekend. Look, if we have a good Easter now, we have set ourselves up for the last few games. So, you know, there'll be a lot of talk about that. Be tough, you know. You've got to take it game by game, but you know, over the 2 games, I think if you're looking 6 points would be unbelievable, unbeaten again. If you could get 4, again, that would be a great return for us.
Well, finally, earlier this week, we asked you to send in your questions to one of Andy's old teammates here at Bloomfield Road, Andy Morrison. Here is the ex-Blackpool man answering some of the best ones.
Obviously went in and done great, become the captain, and had a really good period, you know. Obviously missing out in the playoffs that year was very hard for the club and hard for us to take. And then really, you know, I moved on. Sam got sacked and I was moved on. I was one of the club's commodities, really, that was that another club wanted. I think Bradford had offered the same money as Huddersfield, but you know, Huddersfield was what the deal that the club accepted, and it felt like unfinished business, really, you know, because I never felt as though I really did what I was there. You know, it was obviously to get promoted and take the club forward, but it wasn't meant to be. And you know, history has shown that maybe Sam, you know, went on to better things, and I did at that time, moved forward in my career.
Obviously, they were disappointments, missing out on promotion. But what would you say your favourite moment at Blackpool was?
There's so many, but you know, without a climax to it, you know, without a final moment, like a celebration of sorts, you know, whether it be in a great cup run or, you know, or the fulfilled, you know, I was only there 18 months, I think, or, you know, that promotion that you could look back on, because we had a great group of lads. We had a good team, good staff, and everything was there, you know, and it just went wrong. It went wrong at home horribly in that one game, and that changed the direction, really, of my time at the club. But, you know, I enjoyed it. So I had such a good rapport with the fans, living in the area, and, you know, and I settled in very, very quickly. And I felt I did a really good job when I was there. I never let the club down, never let the fans down when I played on the pitch. You know, my behaviour away from it was a little bit different at times, but, you know, never, ever let the club down when I trained or when I played.
Yeah, you mentioned the relationship with the fans there. How much of a connection did you feel with them, given the short period of time you had with the club? You also ended up in the Hall of Fame for the 90s.
Yeah, listen, you know, you don't join Blackpool, you don't join Manchester City, you don't join anywhere with the intention of wanting to, you know, you just want to play one game at a time, and you just want to make sure that you give everything you've got in every game. And I done that. I think the fans bought into that. They saw that. They saw a leader, they saw a captain who cared and played in the same way that they would have done if they were players, you know. And I think fans buy into that and they see it. And, you know, of course, they want to see the rest of the package as well. But I think that's one of the things that the fans relate to when they see somebody who played the way I played for them every single time I went onto the pitch. And, you know, and I was never proud of them when they were singing my name at games. And, you know, and I had a very short spell where I went back on loan, and it was just great because they remembered, like I said, like I always say, you know, when you leave a football club, you want to be remembered, you know, not always missed. You know, if you could be missed as well as remembered, then great. But at least I remember you were there and you made an impression.
Obviously, you've made the transition into coaching and management. We've been asked, how have you found that transition, and do you get as much enjoyment from managing as you did playing? You'll
never get the same feelings that you did as a player. It's totally different as a manager or as a coach. You know, I worked with Andy for many years as his assistant, and you know, I'm now on my own. But it's totally different. You know, there's a different feeling. There's a different euphoria. There's a different contentment from management than what you got as a player. Because as a player, for me, it was always about dominating and winning the direct battle with the 9 that was in front of me. It was about being better than him on the day. It was about winning that, and the result was huge. And of course, that's the be all and end all. But if I came off the pitch and I know I've dominated him, I've beat him, I've been better than him, then I felt like I'd won my own personal sort of battle. And it's totally different as a manager. You've got a collective group, and there's so many parts of that need to be right on a match day to get the results.
You touched on before, working with Preece, you've been good friends, you've been good teammates, but also some battles on the pitch.
Yeah, we did. Great. I always smile, because obviously I've worked with Preece, so we've, been close friends, and we've always stayed in touch, and I'm godparent to his children. He is to mine. And, we still have great banter when we're together. We had some good battles, and we're always trying to find a way to get an edge on each other, on the pitch. Just very, very small details in the battle between a 5 and a 9. Preece was very clever, and so was I. So just trying to get that edge in every game, just him trying to get half a yard and me trying to stop him. There were great battles, and like a game of chess in many ways when we played against each other, because we knew our games and that. And yeah, they were always competitive, and there was a few sheds of blood along the way. Probably me more than him. He caught me a couple of times and split my lip and cut my eye on a couple of occasions, but he didn't know he'd done it on the pitch because I never let him know, but he did catch me a few times.
I was going to say, would you say edge the battles that you had?
Oh, I always won the battle. Without a shadow of doubt, I always won. But, he had his moments. He had his moments in games where he got the better of me, but collectively over everything, I would say that, I think I played against him when he was at Stockport. I don't think he ever scored against me, so that's my claim to fame. Preece never scored a goal. He scored against me in training on a couple of occasions, but never in a competitive game.
Andy Morrison, they're saying he's got the better of you. Would you argue that?
Well, I think the facts are there for everybody to see. I think we played in 2 games. I think we won both games. I scored in one, and I got an assist in the other. So I think that says it all.
What was he like? Did he have? Everyone has this reputation of him, but is the reputation right?
Oh, he's a hard man. He took no prisoners on the pitch. You knew you were going to be in a game with him. He's going to ask a lot of you as a fellow player. He's going to expect you to put 100% in, and if you're not, he's going to let you know. So he's a great leader on the pitch, but a great lad off it. Do anything for you. So yeah, he was tough, and he did put his foot in, and he did let you know you were in the game. But a great lad off it, and like I said, and we've been mates for ever since I was at Blackpool for the first time.
Was he, to some of the opposition, could you see that he intimidated him, and that's was a real value as well, not just his play, not just his tackle, but the intimidation he showed for some of the other opposition?
Look, he won battles in the tunnel. He'd just stare at you. I played against him. To be fair, when I played against him, he didn't really stare at me. It's just nothing. There's going to be no conversation, nothing. There's a job to do here. We're not mates. This is it. And I got the better of him on all the games that we played against each other. Although he will not say that. He thinks he got the better of me. But no. Look, we had a couple of decent battles, and you couldn't give no quarter. Some people would say, Andy Morrison today, and his reputation, would win him the battle. But he was a good player. He was a great footballer. I think people forget, what a good player he was. He could play in midfield. When he played at sweeper, some of the diagonal passes he could hit. He'd see passes. And at set pieces, if you put the ball in the right area, he'd get his head on things. So, a real top quality player. And if he hadn't had the injuries he had, I'm sure he'd played regularly in the Premier League and played for Scotland. But unfortunately, he had a lot of problems.
In coaching as well, he seems to do pretty well at the moment. In Connor's kit, he seems to be doing very well with them.
Yeah, but he's done brilliant. Fantastic coach. He worked with me for over 10 years as my number 2. and then he's gone to Connah's Quay and he's turned them round in a few seasons, and they've, you know, they haven't just done well domestically, they did well in Europe. You know, they beat Kilmarnock, you know, they beat I can't remember which team it was, but they beat a team from Belarus or something. And you know, it's fantastic achievements to do that with a part-time team. You know, that they've gone a little bit more full-time, and you can see the difference that's made for them. Is, you know, they've pushed TNS off their perch, and that takes some doing. You know, and you know, he's an up-and-coming manager now, and I'm sure there's going to be opportunities for him in the future because he definitely deserves it.
Well, Andy, thank you very much for joining us today. Remember, you can watch Blackpool's Good Friday trip to Swindon live by purchasing an iFollow Match Pass from the club's official website. Thanks for watching. Have a very happy Easter, and we'll see you again next week.